A lot of farms you'll see they use plastic mulching, and it's really hard to rip up. So it ends up getting these microplastics can end up in your soil. We're using a fabric that we roll up at the end of the year. Some of the basic things that people do is they harvest well before they are ripe and ready, and then they're being artificially ripened through some sort of chemical addition. What was being done to make them able to last 3 weeks? When a strawberry locally harvested when ripe, the farmer encourages you to consume within like 3 to 4 days.
Welcome back to Neutral Podcast. We are calling in from Vitruvian Farms, and I'm here with Tommy. Thanks for having us. Excited to be here.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. We just got done with a farm walk, which was really fun. We got to go look at all the greenhouses and everything that Vitruvian is growing. But give us a little background on what is Vitruvian, what you guys have been up to.
Yeah. Well, once again, thanks for coming out. Thanks for including us on your project at Baker's Place. And we're Vitruvian Farms. We're a certified vegetable and mushroom farm just outside of Madison, Wisconsin in McFarland. So about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on traffic, from Baker's Place in the downtown area. So quite close to the Madison community. We've been here now. We're coming up on our 15th anniversary this summer in June. We started the farm in 2010. It was Sean, Kuhn, myself, and a couple other partners at the time who we started the farm with the intention of relocalizing the food system. Really, at its core, we started our senior year in college. So, we didn't necessarily come into this with a farming background. I had never studied farming. Sean had never studied farming or agriculture. We didn't grow up on family farms. We had a community garden the year before we started the farm, which wasn't overly successful, to be honest. But we came into it with a lot of passion, primarily around Sean, really wanted to change the way food was grown. Food was and it still is primarily coming in from very far away. Whether that's across the country or across the world. This effort to have all of your options available all the time. That model versus a model that is focusing on seasonal, organic growing in your community and in your surrounding area. That was really his passion. And then mine primarily was centered around community. Realizing that food so much is this opportunity to build community. I find people are at their happiest when they're eating and sharing a meal. And all too often, food is this fuel that gets us on to doing other things in life. Where food can be a focus, food can be the main event. And wanting to not only provide food that was grown in a way that nourished the body and promoted a healthy living, but developed a story for people to get behind and be a part of, bringing local agriculture and agriculture in general out of the shadows, and making it a gathering space for the community, a space that they could feel a part of, connected to, and have that value added to their lives around food. And so, we started 15 years ago, and we've slowly been building, learning along the way, starting with just growing a few vegetables, and in time, building that into a robust variety of crops that we grow here, ways that we get it to people, whether that's through our restaurant direct program that we're delivering to over 70 restaurants in Madison and Milwaukee, through our CSA program, which we'll get into in a bit, and then more recently through our online store that does home delivery in the Madison area, as well as our grocery store here at the farm, which opened about 1.5 years ago.
And just backing up to kind of the origins of why you wanted to get into Vitruvian, what outside of kind of the idea of having seasonal fruits and vegetables available that are locally grown, what were some of the other reasons of why you're interested in farming, especially kind of hyper local farming?
Yeah. Well, one of the main ones is the quality in which it's grown. We're certified organic here, which means that we're not using any pesticides or herbicides that are prohibited for organic use. We primarily don't use pesticides or herbicides at all. There's a few natural ones that you can use organically, which have varying ranges of effectiveness being organically allowed. But we wanted to grow food in a way that was nutrient dense for the consumer. When you make shortcuts around how you're growing the food, you're also going to be making shortcuts on the final quality of that food. So if you're adding your nutrition in a spray format, that's not going to have the same nutrient density as creating a strong soil system that has all that naturally available for the plants. So that was really important to us. And once again, just really being able to offer food grown in a way that allows people to get excited about, get behind. Maybe it encourages them to cook more, eat in a healthier way that promotes a better lifestyle, a more holistic approach. I think where food isn't just what you're eating, but it's the lifestyle you're choosing to live as well.
Yeah. And so that was kind of your thesis that you guys had in college at UW-Madison, which has led to this idea of Vitruvian, or is this kind of evolved over time?
It definitely evolves. I think, obviously being, 21 years old, I think you come in with a lot of ideas, some really good, some not so much. And part of it is just getting into it and really understanding, I was not necessarily a strong eater of the food I was about to grow. I was a college student. I had, fish sticks were still ending up in the menu, in college, where, this was something that really developed over time. And as we got connected to the food scene through restaurants, through our CSA program, we started to really, in time, and this is ever evolving, is better understand how we can better serve our environment and our community. And I think it'll continue to evolve over time. For example, like what we're trying to do at Baker's Place is a new evolution of that program. Is how do we make eating well, eating locally, accessible and convenient for the people of our community.
Yeah.
And in the end, convenience is a strong factor in the choices people make. And, being able to put that right into the apartment building and make it really straightforward and easy is a great way to get people excited to do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something that's attracted us. I think we met about a year and a half ago. And one thing that we've been really interested at Neutral is really how do we build these kind of holistic lifestyle buildings that it's not just a box that you kind of live in for 12 months, like a lot of our other apartments in Dane County, but across America.
Yeah.
But there's actually an ability to really access everything that you would need for what we would call a healthy lifestyle. And so I think the partnership between Neutral and Vitruvian is really cool and exciting.
Yeah.
Because it's giving all of our tenants access to hyper-local, organic, regenerative food versus going to the grocery store and buying all the food with pesticides and all the stuff that's literally killing us.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really interesting part of what you guys are doing and are about.
Yeah, I think that it's a very symbiotic concept where, you're saying, living in an apartment can be so much more than the place you sleep at night. It can be, how do you take care of your body through working out and eating? And for us, growing food can be, how do you share a meal with your family? How do you interact with your community? How do you feel yourself to then go on and do other really good habits in life? And I think that is that holistic view of the choices we all make and how those choices can make other good choices more accessible and easier to do and achieve.
Yeah. We, in episode 2 of our podcast, we had Dr. Allen, who's leading up our clinic on site at Baker's Place. And he always says that he's the worst medicine. The best medicine is actually nutrition and fitness. He's like, both of those are way better than me telling you or trying to fix you or trying to do some sort of kind of intervention, because it's like food is a natural healer and working out is a natural preventative.
Yep.
And so it's great that we can have access to that in the facility. So tell us a little bit more about how tenants actually go about buying your food, either through the CSA or what we're calling the mini co-op
Yeah.
at Baker's Place.
Yeah. So what's really wonderful about this partnership is it just builds off of something that we've already established at the farm for the Madison community. So, 4 years ago, out of a response to COVID, we developed an online store to offer home delivery. And so much of that was out of necessity for the farm to survive. But in turn, what we realized is there was this really huge desire for people to get food delivered right to their home, and especially local food and a reliable source of food. So I think this builds off of that, in that tenants will be able to go on to our online store, which is accessible through the app, and place an order from our online store, which has over 500 locally produced, made, or grown products, and then select Baker's Place as a delivery location. And that'll be Wednesdays and Saturdays to begin, will be the delivery days. And anything on our online store is available for delivery, and it'll get put right into the garden room, in the correct storage medium as well. So if it needs to be refrigerated, it'll be put in a refrigerator. If it needs to be frozen, it'll be put in a freezer. So it allows people to still live the lives, have the jobs they need to have, but still get food delivered to their door conveniently. And then at their leisure, they can go pick it up in the garden room.
Yeah, because I think that's something that a lot of people just don't have time to do.
Mm-hmm.
I every Saturday go to Dane County Farmers Market right on the Capitol Square and spend probably 2.5 to 3 hours picking all my food for the week with my son.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think a lot of people don't either want to do that and spend the time. I enjoy doing it. So it's like, I like going down on Saturday and picking all that out. But I think a lot of people don't. And so this is super convenient, almost more convenient than going to the grocery store, because you just go on your phone in our app, you click whatever you want, it's all sourced and vetted by you guys, which we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it's delivered and you just pick it up.
Yep.
So I think that's really advantageous for the tenant to be able to have really local access to local food.
Yeah. And once again, the goal is, in my mind, is how can we make shopping local and shopping organic, shopping quality, how can we make that as convenient, as easy as possible? And to create a space that allows tenants to make an order and then pick it up at their convenience. One of the challenges we have around home delivery is that if someone isn't home during the day, it's just really hard to get fresh food delivered. And so, that's one of our limiting factors with just our general delivery service, is that if people work late, it's just not going to be convenient for them to order from us, where this kind of gets over that hurdle for anyone living in Baker's Place. And now that's our online format. That's kind of order what you want whenever you want it, basically a grocery store online delivered to the apartment building. But then, for future years, not for 2025, but going forward, we also have a CSA program. And for those of people who aren't familiar with CSA, basically what it stands for is community supported agriculture. But at its core, what it is you invest in the farm at the beginning of the year. You buy a box of vegetables, and then we deliver that to you throughout the season, kind of eating seasonally with kind of what the farm is producing all year, whether you do it for 9 weeks or 18 weeks. And that, once again, would just get delivered to the garden room at Baker's Place. And we're looking at that just with when the building opens being a 2026 offering for tenants.
Because, we're opening mid-May, but you guys start selling that in January.
Yeah.
And it sounds like for 2025, you're already sold out, which is great.
Yeah. And what we're seeing is that there's still a lot of excitement and desire to be a part of a CSA program in the Madison area. One of the, I wouldn't say it's a negative, it's just a different way of eating, is that you're not selecting your vegetables. The farmer is giving you what they deem as the good breakdown of what is available seasonally. In essence, what it is you're investing in a farm at the beginning of the year, and throughout the year, we give you a variety of vegetables that we're producing or some other local farms are producing. And you're in essence eating with the seasons. And you've made that one initial investment, and then you reap the bounty of the growing season. So, we would, that could be a nice variety of, greens and tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers. And, maybe in the fall it's, more squash and onions and garlic and things like that. And you kind of get to flow with the season, which is really beautiful and fun, but it's challenging because you have to be prepared to cook whatever food you receive that week. And for some, that can be a lot of work where maybe the online platform makes more sense. It's like, hey, I'm going to be out of town a lot, or my cooking and availability for that is really varied. What I would prefer to do is order as I need it, where some people love the challenge and kind of that once again, that more like the farmer's market mindset where you're like, I'm just going to go there and get whatever's there and I'll make it work. I'll cook with it. And both are great options, but for some, they like that kind of that lifestyle, that challenge around a CSA.
Yeah, it's like almost an exciting thing. You get your box
you open
once
it. What
a
do I
week.
have this week?
Yeah,
and that's kind of fun.
Yeah, you got to put a menu together and everything.
Yeah,
that's really cool. And the other option that people also have is that they can just go and grab and go, which early on we walked through the store.
Yep.
And so is it going to be similar to what you have here at the store, or is it kind of going to be a scaled back version of that?
Yeah, it'll be scaled back. And I think what we'll do is we're going to begin with kind of the staples of what our farm grows. And as we see the popularity and the demand for it, we can slowly start including our partners that we work with here at the farm store and see if they would like us to stock their goods as well. That could be, other vegetables for sure, but then it could be prepared meals. It could be things that you could just grab and cook that night. If you don't have time to make a big meal, you could still eat locally, but maybe get a frozen meal from a local maker and have that for dinner. And that could be stocked in the garden room as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And this is all going to be available starting June 1?
It'll be available as soon as you want it set up. So, we're good to go. Like I said, one of the beautiful things about this edition is, especially for the the delivery of pre-orders, we're already set up to do it here at the farm. So it's adding one pickup location and then having a stop, and then we can start making this available to tenants as soon as people are moved in.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. So that'll be something people get to enjoy this summer.
Yep. Absolutely.
And then we'll definitely be integrating it on all of our new buildings that we're building next year and the following, which is going to be really exciting.
Yeah. And it's what's great too, is it can be a really great feedback loop with tenants of what do they like, what would they like to see more of.
Yep.
If they see something that they see online all the time, they're like, man, I would get this way more regularly, but I just forget to order, or all of a sudden the time is I need it and I don't have it. That could be great feedback loops for, hey, maybe, we should carry that or have that pre-stocked in the garden room as well. And that's something that we could work with over time, with tenants, and just learning the process together of what works. Because this isn't something that's necessarily out there that you have an exact model to look at.
Yeah.
This is at least for us, this is a new concept that we're working together on.
Yeah, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Transitioning a little bit just into maybe a little bit more philosophical ideas. Can you walk me through what it means to be a regenerative organic farm and how that's different maybe than what you would traditionally see in kind of these bigger box grocery stores?
Yeah. I mean, at its core, regenerative farming is the effort of building soil and leaving the soil in a better condition than you found it. So whether that's farming practices or techniques around soil and land management, the goal is to improve the space rather than take away from it. And farming at its core is a process that takes, plants need nutrition, plants need from the soil. So there's techniques, whether you're doing it regularly or in how you grow, to build that soil. So there isn't necessarily you're a regenerative farm or you're not. There's scales and there's practices that some farms do that others don't, and it's really hard to say is one farm regenerative and one isn't. But some classic techniques for regenerative farming that we do here at the farm, crop rotation is a big one. Grow a wide variety of crops to help balance out the needs that the plants are taking away from the soil and what's being added. So the more you can rotate, the more you can have a diverse crop offering. That helps with that concept of regenerative farming. One thing we're trying to do more of here is cover cropping. So basically, in essence, letting fields rest through planting them into something that will invigorate the soil and add nitrogen naturally to it rather than taking it away.
What's an example of that?
It could be like clover.
Okay.
There's
So you would just plant clover and that would
yeah, so
add
that would be an
nitrogen
example.
back
You
in?
could do a field for either you can do it for part of the year, a certain season. You can do it for a whole season. There's a lot of ways you can go about cover cropping, and we're just starting to really get into it and learn more about it. But that's something we've been limited on just because we don't have a ton of space out here. Because we have so much space that is in forest around here, we only have so many acres to grow on. So we're trying to open up a bit of land, also trying to grow more strategically to have more space available for cover cropping. Other technique, obviously just adding compost is a regenerative technique. You're adding to the soil. So we add a lot of compost here at the farm as a kind of to counter the fact that we don't do as much cover cropping. And then, that can go on. So some things that we don't do here that other farms might, we don't integrate animals into our growing. That can be a way to naturally add nutrition to soil is by having animals grazing on your fields you're resting or kind of intermixing that. We don't have any animals here at the farm. So that's a technique, for example, that we're not doing that as a regenerative practice. The last one that I think we're really proud of and we're trying to expand is the integration of perennial agriculture with annual agriculture. So annual agriculture is most of what you think of when you think of vegetables. So, tomatoes, peppers, salad greens, kind of the main list of crops are all annually. You plant them during one season and they don't come back the next year. You have to replant them. Where perennial agriculture, think of like fruit and nut trees. Things that just once you plant them, they're in for a long period of time. So we're trying to integrate perennial agriculture in between our fields. We've planted over 300 fruit trees already, and we're going to keep expanding that in a goal to find that balance between high-level annual production and perennial-based agriculture. Which, once again, that locks in, your root systems, helps with erosion, helps with leaching of nutrition just from heavy rains and open soil. You're gonna release carbon and nutrition out of the soil. So the more you can find places to leave crops permanently there, you're gonna have a better soil medium and sequester more carbon and nutrition.
Interesting. I'm not an expert on any of this, but you recommended a book, which we actually have in the library now, which is called The Third Plate. And that's been giving me a little bit of education to soil health and just regenerative practices.
Yeah, it's a cool breadth book of just a lot to think about. And I wouldn't say I'm an expert either. Once again, this is, Sean, my business partner, knows a lot more on the growing and soil health side. And even we are still very much in the process of learning. It's a never-ending process.
And just give me a little bit more background into these 3 different areas that you're talking about of how you're kind of maintaining soil health, specifically with the perennial.
Yeah.
What perennials are you guys using?
Yeah.
Or trees. Like my parents live in Northern California, and so I drive up there and you see heaps of almond trees all over the place. Obviously, I don't think we can grow almonds here in Wisconsin.
We can grow hazelnuts though.
Oh, can we?
So we, like I said, we are still very much on the early stages, but a goal at the farm here is to expand our tree production and once again, integrate it into our annual production.
Like hazelnuts.
Hazelnuts, apples, plums. We have some peach trees.
So just a lot of fruits and then like
fruit and nut are
nuts,
good examples of perennial-based agriculture in this area.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so that's one aspect of kind of the regenerative organic practices that you guys are employing. What are other aspects of it? Talking about just kind of overall maintenance of your soil, maintenance of the land.
Yeah.
Ensuring that we have nutrition in the soil for long-term growth.
Yeah. I mean, one of the harsh realities of annual-based production is that open soil is something that is going to release carbon and leach nutrition. It is a byproduct of having open soil. So, areas that you can try to reduce your impact is minimal tillage. So we try to keep our beds permanently affixed in our fields, and that we just rework the top of the bed instead of constantly reworking the whole field. So you kind of develop these natural walk paths with lightly disrupted soil. Once again, you still have open beds. In between them, we try to put grass and then tree rows to help prevent erosion, help prevent and limit the leaching of the soil. And then some things we've been working on more recently is how we water. So finding more areas. We use permanent, like reusable fabric that you can lay down and you can put crops on it. And then you use drip lines to water, limiting your water usage. And then once again, preventing from heavy rains leaching your soil.
Interesting.
So these aren't, a lot of farms you'll see they use plastic mulching. That's a quite common practice. It's a single use plastic and it's really hard to rip up. So it ends up getting these microplastics can end up in your soil. We're using a fabric that we roll up at the end of the year. They have kind of burned holes at the correct spacing for what we're growing. And then we just, at the end of the season, we roll it up, and beginning of the season, we roll it back out in a new area. And that's our new planting space for whether that's kale or head lettuce or, celery. We're doing all fabric cover for those.
And a lot of other farmers are using one-time use plastics.
Well, there's farmers doing what we're doing. Then the single-use plastic is common because it's usable in a highly mechanized format where you can just roll it out with a machine on a tractor and gets kind of rolled out and covered on the edges. And in essence, that just gets, it's a way to prevent weeds. It's an organic technique to prevent spraying. But then the other byproduct is you're using a lot of plastics.
Yeah. And now you're having a bunch of microplastics.
Which can end up in your soil. It's really hard to clean up.
Yeah. Really hard. Interesting. What are you guys, I know organic certification takes a long process to get. You guys are organic certified. I've been talking to a few smaller farmers at farmers market, a couple that aren't organic certified, but I've been asking them about their practices, and it seems like their practices are following the organic certification process. But can you give me a little insight of like why you got organic certified, what that means, and maybe some of the hurdles that are associated with it? Yeah.
I mean, at the core of it, obviously you do not have to be certified organic to grow organically. You just can't say it in a formal setting. You can't put it on a label. But there's a lot of farms out there through various reasons, whether that's the choice they made, the financial or time limitations around being certified organic, that they're in essence doing everything they need to do, but they're not certified. There's a lot of paperwork involved. There's a cost involved. Being certified organic is not free. Not only do you have to pay for all the inputs to be organically approved, which are all more expensive, whether that's the seed, the soil amendments, those are all more expensive than the non-organic counterpart. But then there's actually a fee involved to becoming certified organic, and that scales up by how much organic food you grow. Yeah. So, thousands of dollars per year. So some farms would just choose that's not a financial importance to them, or that's not enough to be able to legally say they are, that, locally they have enough trust that they can just say they're organic to the, their farmers market community, their CSA customers, whatever it may be. And I'm totally for that. I believe that if you can develop a relationship with your farmer, in the end, you can choose to have that trust. The nice thing about being certified organic is you have a third party confirming that you're actually doing what you say you're doing. But then also, because we sell in grocery stores, we wanted to be able to put the seal on our products.
So that people, when they see Vitruvian and maybe they don't know about you or haven't heard about how local you guys are, they know that, hey, these are organic mushrooms or organic tomatoes and stuff like that.
Yeah. For example, like I don't always have all the vegetables I want for my home, even having a farm. But if I'm going to buy vegetables from a store, they're going to be certified organic.
Yeah.
So, I rely on that label to know that they were done in a way that I believe in.
And do you think that it's okay if you're buying non-certified as long as you know the farmer? Or
I think that's up to each individual,
Yeah.
the level of trust they have with the person that's growing their food. I do believe that farmers at local markets that say they're growing organically, I think they are they're being truthful, even if they don't have the seal. I think it's just going to come down to the relationships you want to build and the people you want to trust. And the seal is a nice way to guarantee that somebody's following practices you believe in or want in your food.
Yeah. One thing that we're trying to do at Neutral, and part of the kind of thesis around Neutral, is reducing carbon in the natural environment. And so maybe talk a little bit about how regenerative and organic practices through soil and other kind of mechanisms can reduce carbon.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I don't deem myself an expert by any means. Anecdotally, I know what we're trying to do here, but you know, at its core, annual agriculture is going to release carbon. It's a natural byproduct of tilling soil. However, the more you can mitigate that, how much you're tilling, um, you know, we try to find that balance with having beds open and ready to plant, and how often we have to work the soil to get them to that point. So we're working on, for example, we're working on low disruption techniques too. Because we're organic, we can't just spray for weeds. So we have to find ways to mitigate weeds. So what we do is a process called stale bedding, where we prep a bed, we water it, we don't plant it, we let the weeds come up, and then we remove those weeds prior to planting. Now, if we did that and every time we wanted to remove weeds, we fully tilled the soil, that would release more carbon. So what we're trying to do is use a tool that just kind of disrupts the soil and almost like jiggles it in essence. And that can kill the thread weeds, but not necessarily till and unearth new soil or churn the soil. But at its core, annual agriculture is a technique of farming that will release carbon by having open soil.
Yeah, because carbon's going to be in the soil, and when you till the soil,
shake it up and
it's going to release it.
But then mixed with that, this farm is, we did our walk around, we're not some barren farm field. We are surrounded by a forest and trees on 3 of the 4 sides. So we're trying to find that balance between some annual production, but keeping natural habitats, keeping a strong forested green space that is not necessarily for growing food, but for just being a natural habitat. So it's once again, it's growing the food we want to grow and need to grow, but then trying to find other opportunities to create a space that is beneficial to our environment.
Yeah, which I think is really cool, because carbon's not the only story. It's also all the other factors that are involved. And so it's all these other practices that you guys are deploying that really do matter.
And it's like I said, we said before, this is a constant evolution of learning. We didn't get into this as experts. We didn't go to school for this. We're soaking in this knowledge as we go along. And, we kind of started with what are small, medium farmers doing now? And as we grow here, we're in adding new techniques and skills as we learn how to do a better job at farming food locally and doing it in a way that's the least impactful on our environment in a negative way, and find those opportunities to be regenerative and add to the soil and add to the environment that it's better than how we started it.
Yeah. So I know you have a few partners that you buy different produce from. I know you're partnering with restaurants like Pasture and Plenty and Cadre that are local to Madison for some of your frozen kind of pre-prepped meals. But on more of the kind of farming side of things, with maybe some of the potatoes, the onions, things you're not growing at the farm, how are you vetting these different farmers that you're buying from and then selling on the online store to kind of make sure that they have this cohesive nature with some of your guys' kind of guidelines and practices and ethos?
Well, I think at the core of it, we kind of still found everything on community. So we have gotten to know a lot of these farms and farmers. We work with, for example, to name a few, Harmony Valley Farm out of Viroqua, kind of one of the, I think, gold standards of organic farming in the Midwest. They've been doing it since the late 70s. I think they farm way more food than we do. I mean, they're a major organic food producer in our area. We work with Driftless Organics out of Soldiers Grove. Crossroads Community Farm out of Cross Plains, and several others. Some of the standards, all of our vegetable producers are certified organic that we work with. And a lot of them are doing this kind of multi-crop CSA farming concept. So Crossroads Community Farm, they are a CSA farm. They just, like us, we produce a lot of salad out here. They also produce a lot of other crops for wholesale. And so we are just someone that gets it from them. Harmony Valley is a CSA farm as well. Probably the most robust, diverse farm I've seen. That they do a lot of crops and they do them really well. And so when we talk back to some of these positive techniques, having a diverse crop offering, farming organically, all of these things are a part of the farms we're working with. But once again, stepping back, we built a relationship with all of them that extends beyond just a buyer-seller relationship. We've gotten to know them, gotten to be a part of kind of conversations around what they do. What are we doing? How can they grow food for us? What are things we're hoping to get locally or quality that we can't find? And they're helping make that happen and creating a more robust local food space.
And so really it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You're starting with the relationship with the farmer who's growing the food.
Yeah.
Really just kind of understanding what his practices are, what his kind of philosophy is around growing.
Yeah.
Then kind of vetting to make sure, okay, does he have organic certification? Yeah. And making sure that his practices are meeting what you guys are expecting. And then from there, that's when you start listing his product in the store.
Yeah.
But then how do you actually understand, like, do people want to buy this product and what is the demand of the product, both on the in-store experience, but also online?
I mean, we start with, one of the core things we start with is everything in this store is things that myself and our staff want to eat. We get, some products we don't necessarily buy in. We start to say, for example, a farm like Harmony Valley, once we know how good their quality is. If there's a vegetable that they grow, we know it's going to be great. We don't necessarily need a sample of it, but every product that's in here, we at one point got in and our team sampled it and we said, man, would I eat this? And if the answer is yes, and it fits our standards of practices, it gets added to the store. And then we can say everything in here is stuff that we love. And what's a better way when you think about eating is having someone who can say, yeah, this is good and here's why. This is good and here's why, versus a grocery store that just has everything and you buy it and you're like, this product was terrible. That part we've taken care of here because we've vetted it. And first and foremost, like if it's in here, it tastes good. It's a good quality product. And I don't care if it's local. I don't care if I'm friends with somebody. Like if their product isn't good, it's not going to be in the store. That's got to be a founding principle of what makes it in here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one thing when you go to like Whole Foods or some of these massive grocery stores, it's like this paradox of choice dilemma where you have so many choices that you don't know what to make.
Or you show up to a restaurant and there's 6 pages.
Yeah.
And it's like nobody vetted it at all. It's just like, we try to think of everything that anyone could possibly order.
Yeah.
Versus you go to a restaurant that has 8 things and, they're truthful in saying like every one of them is great.
Yeah.
And I've had every one of them and here's what I like about each one. And I think I've personally started to love a more curated food experience, whether that's at a restaurant where they kind of just give you food and you are kind of at the whim of what the chef wants to make because they're way more of an expert than me. And I think about going to a store and having an experience where, there's a lot of staples, like it covers a wide variety, but at its core, it's like got 1 or 2 of this item because they were good. I don't need, 4 ketchups. Like we got one good one, and it just, that goes down the list. Every product we sell, we found a good one and that covers that part. I don't need someone to have to make a choice on every product they're buying. It's like, I need, I don't know. I need tortilla chips. It's like, well, we have one really good one, not a wall of them that you might have to go, I have no idea. I'll go off which one has the best branding.
Yeah.
Because I have no other way to decide.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the cool thing because it's like when you go into those big stores, 1, you have no idea what's good. And 2, you're like questioning, okay, what I picked out, is it really good?
Yeah. Buyer's
And
remorse.
that's one thing that we've really tried to do at the building with Neutral. It's like people make one decision to live here,
Yep.
and that leads to all these other great decisions because they've made this one big kind of life-changing decision that, okay, I'm going to live in this building, and now you have access to great health, you have access to a great gym, you have access to great food through you guys, really great living because we're designing these buildings in a really wonderful way. And I think it's the same thing when you enter in the store, either online or in person. It's like you're making one decision to come to Vitruvian, and that decision's now leading you to all these other great decisions. And it's like, okay, I'm going to get carrots. Well, I'm going to get carrots from this, you guys, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to get tortilla chips from this one tortilla chip manufacturer because we know that they're really, really great.
Yep.
And I think that's one issue that I've seen just across the board with food. And I even have trouble with sometimes. It's like when I go to the grocery store, I don't know what to buy. And I don't know what's local. I don't know what's organic. I don't know what's good. And that's why I started to just go to farmer's market instead. And now it's cost me a lot of time. And instead of spending all the time, it's like you can go into the app and you can pick out what you need and it gets delivered automatically.
Yeah.
What are you guys looking at as far as kind of in the next year to 2 years? Are you thinking about growing to more farmers to offer more and more food, or are you kind of just going to maintain where you're currently at?
We're always looking for more vendors and makers and farmers. You know, we're not limiting what we do here by, you know, oh, this is the number we're shooting for. You know, if there's a good local product and we find it, we want to add it, and we're constantly looking. I think we added probably 10 products in the last week. And so, you know, and now our team's getting behind it too. You know, our staff will be like, hey, I was just at this place and I found this, you know, someone just recently found like a local granola bar in Milwaukee and it was great. And so we reached out and said, you know, we found your product. We like it. We have this small little farm store and now we carry that. And so I think we're going to keep finding it and promoting this kind of this really awesome showcase of what's local. And that's going to just keep evolving over time. You know, the more local makers and producers there are, the more this store will have in it. But it will be bound a bit by just what's around us. And like I said, we're not going to have California strawberries in December or wherever they're coming from in December. You know, we're going to be, you know, one thing we spoke about earlier is, you know, we're going to help maybe do a preservation program here where we'll get the bounty of, say, Carindale strawberries, which are just down in Oregon, one of the most well-known and longest-lasting U-pick strawberry farms here in the Madison area. And we've been working with him for the last few years on getting in strawberries for our store. And recently we started chatting about these moments where he just has this immense surplus. And for whatever reason, you know, he just has more than he can sell. And where we could take that in, we have tons of space to freeze. And we could freeze all those strawberries, bag them up, and have them ready for our community to buy local strawberries in the winter. There is no local frozen strawberry here, it just hasn't happened. And they just taste better, even when they're frozen. They're better. And we want to help make that kind of effort too, where maybe you don't get fresh strawberries in December, but you can still get frozen ones to put in your smoothies. You can still get them to, you know, do baked goods out of, or make I've been doing like a strawberry compote over waffles, you know, all winter, where I just cook them down a little bit and then throw them over a freshly made waffle. And that's lovely. And you know, that does require you to change how you eat strawberries a little bit, but doesn't mean you can't still have strawberries in the winter. It's just a little bit different.
Yeah, different style.
But it's still local and it's still quality. And that's what the goal is here, is to keep making that more and more accessible and to extend that season wherever we can.
I'll have to come over to your house on a Sunday for one of those waffles. They sound really good.
We make a good waffle at our house.
Yeah.
It's a good recipe.
Talk to me a little bit about what seasonal eating means. I think a lot of people kind of hear this term, maybe aren't familiar with it.
Yeah.
I think it's something that unless you are practicing it, you really don't know what it is, don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
So kind of talk us through what that means.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the first things to start with is at the core, a grocery store is somewhat lying to you of what's locally available. A grocery store has developed these relationships and connections so that you can have the same offering of food 365 days a year. And because of that, very little of it is coming from your local farming community. And eating seasonally at its core is eating what is locally grown and available. And that could be fresh, like once again with the strawberry reference, eating really good local strawberries in late June, early July when they're available. But the strawberry season's like 4 to 6 weeks at most. So eating seasonally for strawberries could be eating frozen strawberries in the winter. What I like to think of is when I'm eating locally or when I'm eating seasonally, I'm really diving into that crop when it's available and eating it for almost every meal, almost to the point where I'm like ready to be done with it. When it's asparagus season, I eat asparagus every day, but that's only like, once again, 4 to 6 weeks. And then I don't buy asparagus. I don't ever eat asparagus outside of that season. And I'm kind of okay to be done with it. But you know what? Then the next season is, then all of a sudden maybe we get into, tomato season in July. And I was mentioning to you on our walk, like a caprese kind of salad with tomatoes, balsamic. That is like 3 nights a week in our household for like 10 weeks. And then I don't eat another tomato outside of that season unless it's canned. But I'm kind of ready to be done with it at that point. And for me, it's like you just truly dive into what's seasonally available. A farmer's market's a great way, or our store obviously is a great way to know what's seasonally available. Eat that, eat the heck out of it for like the time it's available, and then move on to the next thing and really dive into that. And that's, for me, that's eating seasonally. It's just focus on what's there, eat a lot of it, and then move on to the next thing when that crop is up.
And how do you think that, for you personally, kind of speaking anecdotally, affects your health and well-being of eating seasonally local foods instead of going back to our strawberry example, since we're on that? Like, I know a lot of strawberries during the winter get exported from South America, right? Where they're on the opposite season from us.
Yep.
And we get it imported. But it's like, there's no way this has been a fresh strawberry for 6 weeks and somehow it's here in Wisconsin. It's perfectly preserved. It's like they're obviously doing different things to it. So talk a little bit about maybe how this is better for your health.
Yeah. I mean, once again, this for me is anecdotally. I haven't, really dived into the science behind seasonal eating, but I find it more mental. I get excited by change. I think the monotony of the same thing always being available leads to a stagnation of how you eat, what your body's consuming. And I find that when I eat seasonally, I'm just constantly mixing up what's in my diet. And once again, it's like I'll eat it really hard for the time it's available, and then I won't consume that vegetable for months. And I find that to be mentally very enjoyable, very stimulating. And I think health and mental, your physical health and your mental health can be very intertwined. And whenever you can take something and make it an enjoyable experience on top of the necessity of it, I think there's something valuable that's added. And I think it does affect your physical health.
But also, like, if you're eating, strawberries or fruits or anything that's coming halfway across the world, I mean, how are they getting that from South America or Australia or wherever they're buying it at that time to your grocery store at Wisconsin?
Yeah.
I mean, that can't happen naturally. Right?
I mean, the one of the beautiful things is I don't quite understand it because I just want no part of it. But my assumption, some of the basic things that people do is they harvest well before they are ripe and ready, and then they're being artificially ripened through some sort of chemical addition. Outside of that, strawberries are a fascinating thing to me because, when you get a strawberry, when we get strawberries from a local farm, they encourage us to sell it within 2 to 3 days, that they start to go downhill from harvest. And obviously think about the transit time and the shelf time. Seems like you can buy strawberries from a grocery store and they'll just sit in your fridge like almost like they're naturally preserved. And it makes no sense to me, and once again, it's like, how underripe were these? Because at the core of it, they're not these like magically different plants. So, what was being done to make them able to last 3 weeks? When a strawberry locally harvested when ripe, the farmer encourages you to consume within like 3 to 4 days.
Yeah. That's what I'm wondering. It's
Yeah.
like, it just doesn't seem natural to me. So it's
Yeah.
like they're either, as you said, harvesting really early or adding artificial chemicals, which it's like, obviously that's not going to be good
Yeah.
for your health.
There's definitely a lot of worrisome techniques that are used to make our global food system work, to make food seem fresh and ready in a store that's coming from so far away. When you have things like what's being added to meat, when is a vegetable being harvested or what's chemically being added to it to artificially ripen it, you have to ask yourself, what really are the costs of those things outside of the immediate, what are the long-term health problems that might arise from something like that being used all the time?
Yeah. And I think we probably can't get into all the exacts of that. Maybe we'll have another episode with Dr. Allen and he can educate us on that.
Yeah.
But I think the kind of point here is about seasonal eating, that you're avoiding any type of kind of artificial or chemicals being added to preserve these fruits and vegetables for a prolonged period of time by just merely eating seasonally. Because it's
eating locally and eating along with what the farmers and the growers in your area have available. And whether that's through something like our store or through a farmer's market, you're getting that really, amazing snapshot throughout the season of here's what's happening in your area, here's what's available, here's what you can consume. And when it's gone, it's gone, and you have to move on.
Yeah. And I know right now in the greenhouse, we walk through some different things that you're growing, tomatoes and even ginger and turmeric, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
But kind of what else do you grow in the greenhouse here on site throughout the year?
Yeah.
That people can buy directly from you?
Yeah. So we use the greenhouses for two main purposes. We use it for what we call like kind of shoulder extension seasons. So late fall and early spring, it allows us to kind of get a jump start or an extension on our kind of cold hardy crops. So things like greens, radishes, turnips, bok choy, green onions, things like that that have a little bit more tolerance for temperature, cold on the cold end. That allows us to extend that season well into late December and start harvesting again at the beginning of April. And then main season, it becomes our hothouse crops. So they get converted. We're just probably about a week away, maybe 2 weeks away from converting our houses over to our hothouse season. And that'll be tomatoes, peppers, basil, turmeric and ginger, which are fun ones that, you wouldn't think would grow here. But if you do some techniques inside the greenhouse, you can get them to grow in a singular season. We can make it hot enough for them to grow. And anything else that requires a lot of heat, you can grow earlier season zucchini or cucumbers. We can kind of get those hothouse crops going a little earlier, even though those can be grown outside. They handle the indoors a little bit better, having a little more heat, having a little bit more protection from weather events.
Interesting. And the other thing you're doing on the farm, I know, is events throughout the whole summer, which we'll definitely be having some of our tenants be invited to. But maybe just give us a quick synopsis of some of those events that you guys do at the farm where we're actually doing this podcast.
Yeah. So, and once again, this is something that's ever evolving. This space has been open for about 1.5 years, and where we're sitting now is kind of the goal of a future entertainment concept that'll kind of open up into a park outdoor area. But this year we're going to have several kind of what we call CSA happy hours, where our CSA members can come out. We're selling beer here and other drinks, and able to once again be a community connection event where you just get to hang out around food. We're a Bike the Barns host site this summer. So I believe it's September 21st. You can sign up through Fair Share CSA Coalition's website, but you can bike to various farms around the Madison area, and we're one of the stops this year. And then generally throughout the year, we would be doing some farm events with tours, but we actually have a very busy personal event schedule, both Sean and myself. So we had to take a little bit of a step back on events this summer. But generally we do what's called farm days, where we have a food truck out here. We have a bunch of our local vendors come in for sampling, and then we do farm tours to once again give people that opportunity to connect with where their food is grown, see how their food is grown, break that barrier between the consumer and the grower, so that people can feel really confident of what their food is, how their food is being grown, but it also feel that connection point of it feels like this is my farm or this is where my food is grown, and I've seen it, I know it, I feel connected to it.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you giving us the tour today and having us out here for the podcast. It's been really enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to having you guys partner with us for Baker's Place and 517 and Edison and future neutral buildings. And hopefully we can grow a bunch of food.
Yeah. I think once again, thanks for coming out. And my hope is that we can continue, and through opportunities like this, through working with your projects, is to make quality food, locally grown food, more convenient and easy for our community to get, and then help these growers and these makers continue to grow their businesses and have easy access to the community, and build each other up as a one big community, food community. And I think there's a lot yet to be done. I think there's a lot of good steps being taken, and I hope this is kind of that next great step and great opportunity to make it happen.
Yeah, it's the next iteration of really bringing the food from the farm directly to where you're eating it at home, instead of all these intermediaries.
Yep.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Little like 3 or 4 minute intro that I'll record later.
Ah.
And then
Don't do that one live.